Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Arbury Road Podcast. My name is Paco Ruzzante, and I am one of the co-founders of Arbury Road. Let me remember you that Arbury Road is a European progressive think tank which deals with politics at the European level, and that our goal is to contribute to the discussion of a European progressive agenda. I also remember you that Arbury Road is a grassroots project which lives thanks to the effort of its volunteers, and that every donation can really make a difference. So if you can, please donate, and you can do it through our website at www.arburyroad.eu. Today, we are going to talk about the 2021 German federal elections and about the new government, which on the 8th of December has brought Olaf Scholz to substitute Angela Merkel as a chancellor after 16 years. To talk about this today, we have a really special guest, Hakan Demir, who was elected member of the German parliament for the constituency of Berlin Neukölln. Sorry for my German, Hakan. So hello, Hakan, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, Paco. I'm glad to be here. Hi.
Hi. Okay, so first of all, I would like to ask you to introduce yourself a little bit for our listener as a new and young elected member of the Bundestag. Perhaps you can begin by telling us what developed in you the passion for politics and what brought you to start your adventure, let's say.
Yeah. First of all, I don't have one history that brought me to politics or something like that. It's development from my childhood till now. Now I'm 37 years old, so not that young, but I still belong to 68 of our social democratic group in the German parliament who are under 40. So we have 206 and 68 of them are under 40, and that's very nice. And it feels like starting new semester at the university, more or less. So because there are a lot of young people, and I grew up in a 3-room flat with 6 other family members. So, and we, I think we had only 5 books or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it was a classical workers' household, and no one could help me with my homework or something like that. Mm-hmm. But we had good school structure and good teachers, and they helped me. And we had one library in my small town, and this library brought me to my passion, and my passion is, right, more or less it's philosophy. So in that library, I met, for instance, Plato, Seneca, and all the other philosophers, and that brought me to philosophy, political science, and economics that I have studied in Trier, in Germany, and 1 year in Istanbul. And during this time, I was always thinking of or was seeing injustice. For instance, inequalities, because I'm from I have a migration background and a workers background, mm-hmm. And I saw that, for instance, Germans without migration background, they had big houses, for instance, whereas Turkish citizens or Germans with Turkish migration background, they live in small flats with lots of relatives and so on. And so I was just receiving and seeing this problem, but later on, as I read lots of books, I was like, okay, that shouldn't be like that. So more or less, I started to be more politically involved. And in 2012, I moved to Berlin, and Berlin is the most. So in Berlin, you have to be politically involved because everywhere there's a demonstration, or everywhere everyone speaks about politics. So I went to a party, and 10 years later, I became one of Berlin's member of the parliament. So 10 years after that, after really real hard work. So
yeah, definitely. That's a really good story, because it shows that in a way in the Espd there is the way for people who, like, without family connection, basically, to get there and to start their career, basically. So to represent also a little bit these different backgrounds, because your family, if I'm not wrong, has arrived in the contest, as you were mentioning, of what is called an Unverbebkamen. I don't know, I think my pronunciation is terrible, no? Which is a sort of recruitment agreement. Can you tell us a little bit about that, just because it's representative of perhaps a part of the German society, probably in Berlin?
Yeah, you're right. There is a recruitment agreement. There were a recruitment agreement in the 60s with, for instance, with Turkey, but also with Italy and other Southern European countries. And the goal was to bring guest workers to Germany to work, and that was the main goal. And my grandfather was one of them who came to Germany. He was totally poor, and he came to Germany to give his own family the possibility to have a better life. And he totally achieved that goal, because 50 years after he came to Germany, his grandson is now member of the German parliament, and it's crazy. And I know he would have been proud, but he doesn't live anymore. But I know that he would have been proud of that. And it's a great history, or it's a great story that we have here in Germany, that we have kind of stories like that. And thousands of guest workers came, and their families came after that as well. And now we have in Germany around, let's say 3 million people with migration background out of 83 million. So it's the largest community in Germany with the migration background. And it's still influencing for sure the cities, the culture here in Germany, as well the culture in Neukölln, because lots of people with Turkish and Arabic background live in Neukölln as well.
It is one of the, if I'm not wrong, most international neighborhoods of Berlin.
Good. I always say it's like New York.
Okay.
It's like New York because we have people from 150 countries in Neukölln.
Wow.
And it's cool. And I know that one magazine said that Neukölln is one of the 11th coolest city on earth.
Okay.
So that makes me proud as well. That makes me proud as well. Maybe that's the thing about the recruitment agreement.
That sounds really good, and well, Berlin for sure is a really cool city, so I can think that is probably right. Also, it's really good. I think that the SPD has this mechanism again, which allows this representation. I think it's something that other parties throughout Europe should probably imitate, where perhaps is a bit more difficult for people with background of non-native to be represented, basically. Okay, so thank you for this introduction. Now let's dig into the topic, perhaps. And probably a good place where to start are the results, of course. First of all, the result of the Espd, which was surprising, probably. They got 25.7%. They became the first party in Germany. When was the last time, probably, to see the Espd, we need to go back to the early 2000s, isn't it? Or even earlier. Yeah. So at the second place, there was the coalition of the conservatives with the CDU and the CSU, which reached 24.1%. And then the Greens with 14.8% and the FDP,
Yeah.
if you pronounce it like that, with 11.5%. Then the others, still warring the AfD, got 10%, but it seemed a little bit more under control if compared to the previous election. At least that is the hope. So the question here is like, if we look at the polls in May, June 2021, the SPD was still given around 50%. What is your, first of all, your evaluation about these results? And what do you think the SPD did in the right way to reach these results in what happened in those months, basically between May, June, and the elections?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe actually we have to start with 2017, after we lost, more or less. We started a kind of reform and kind of analyzing what we did in a wrong way in 2017 during the campaign. And after that, we had 100 pages. In that, we collected all the mistakes that we did, and in that paper, we also said, okay, you did that mistake, and now you have to do another. You need to do the right thing. And the right thing, for instance, one problem of 2017 was that we waited so long to have a candidate. So this time we had the candidate before all the other parties. So months before, and it was Olaf Scholz. And in the same time, in 2017, we started also to renew our positions on social security, on Europe, on migration. We analyzed everything, and we also stated that we did mistakes in 2005 or 2000. So we were really clear and very frank, and we admitted our mistakes. That was good, and we learned from our mistakes. I would say that's one part, one pillar of why we achieved that result. The second point was, after 60 years of CDU and after Merkel, I think the German population was still looking for someone who is representing security. And yeah, Olaf Scholz is someone who is someone who gives you the feeling that everything is fine. And yeah, and it is like that. So he was during Merkel's time the finance minister, and he did a good job. So everyone knew him. But and on the other side, we know that the other candidates from the Greens, from the CDU, were weak, or let me state it like that, weaker, and did mistakes. And Olaf Scholz didn't. And on the road to September, on the road to the election day, I think more and more people recognized that Merkel is not the candidate of the CDU, and she will be gone, and they turned to the Social Democratic Party, and we had a clear communication. It was clear what we want. For instance, we wanted to, or we still want to have it, the 12 euro minimum wage. For instance, that was a good point, that we want to enhance the child support, that we are still behind the idea to support other European countries if they are in need. So, that were clear communication lines. And the other point was that we didn't have conflicts within the party. So we stick together, and we were arguing with each other, but it was inside the party. It was not like in the media or something like that. So it was
constructive, let's say.
Good, yeah, let's say good atmosphere. Let me state it like that, and it's still like that. It's still like that. That doesn't mean that we are 100% fine with everything. That's not the point. But we have a different kind of political culture, and the political culture is like, I don't know, being calm. And not exaggerating things, but to speak with each other, but to speak with the colleagues within the party, and then maybe go to Twitter and tell something. And I think that is more or less all the points that I stated lead to the success that we have.
Okay. That sounds really good, especially the part, I believe, about, first of all, taking responsibility, so admitting the mistakes, that are made, which is something really difficult to see in a party. And also the part about communication, Arbury Road, in a way, is trying to do this, so to help to develop a clear communication on the left spectrum, because we believe that, for example, sovereignist parties sometimes, they have the wrong receipts, but they have a really good communication and they're able to speak with people. And that was missing a little bit in our vision in the social democratic and center, let's say, progressive field in the past years. So the question is, at this point, when you talk about Berlin, is also perhaps the capital, if not one of the capitals of Europe, in the sense that is this really international city which represent what the European Union is becoming. In this sense, do you think that this result and perhaps this receipt, these points that you told us, could be a model for other social democratic parties throughout Europe? And we had a few encouraging results. For example, in Italy, also the Social Democratic Party was back being the first after a few years, and so there seems to be a bit of recovery.
I think so. It's there is hope. In Sweden, we have a social democratic party that is ruling, and they invited Olaf Scholz as well to the party congress. And I think that it could be a beginning in Germany and in Europe, that the social democratic movement is not dead. It is still alive, and it could go further and further. And I think our Social Democratic Party in Germany wants to share the experience that we have right now, and to help the other parties to have good results as well. But I think you cannot compare everything. So we have typical constellation here in Germany. Like I said, Merkel was ruling 60 years, and then there were a kind of shift and kind of hope of change, something like that. So that helped us as well. But on the other side, it will always help the social democratic movement if we have clear communication, if we have open hearts with regard to the social problems that the people have all around Europe. If we strengthen that point, for instance, Olaf Scholz, the whole campaign was under the framework of respect. It's not that creative or something like that. No, it's not. But it was good because it touched people. And he had his inauguration speech this day, and he was also still talking about respect, and that no one is better than the other. And this was the strongest point in his speech, I think, because it was kind of emotional. And I think it's also the point that people think about, that they think the rich or the other people don't respect me, don't respect my needs. And I think a little bit we changed that perception, and then the people believe again in the Social Democratic Party, and that we will help them, and we also make them we gave them the ideas like €12 minimum wage, and also Hartz IV and the social security things that we also gave them, and tell them, hey, we will fight for that. And they believe us. They believe in us, and we need to fulfill these wishes that the people have. And then I think we will not only rule for 4 years, but more than that. I hope so.
Yeah, well, we also hope that. And it sounds really interesting. Also, later I'm going to ask you a little bit about your welfare. I am a welfare historian, so I'm really interested. Well, historian again, so I studied more the past than the present. So, but I'm really interested in your welfare program, and I know you have a few proposals that I would like you to discuss with us briefly, of course, not in the details because we don't have time. But first, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the atmosphere a little bit in the German parliament, since you're there, and how it is the situation again after Merkel. Merkel is called Krisenkanzlerin, sorry, my German again, which award which basically states that she was the chancellor which brought Germany through the big crisis, through the three big crises of migration, of Corona, and of course the 2008 financial crisis. So it was a really particular period, the one under Merkel leadership. How is the situation now? How do you feel the atmosphere in the new parliament? Are we finally ready to start a new phase in Germany and in Europe? Again, you used this in other interviews, this other word. I won't try to pronunciate it, but basically, which means sports shoes.
Yeah.
So to say that, as you were saying, that the parliament is really young, you said that it looks like a little bit like being at the university, so the atmosphere seems really good. Is there the option to really change things, the possibility, and especially with an eye to the so-called traffic light coalition. So with the liberals, for example, you have a really interesting welfare program, but is it going to be possible to realize that with the liberals?
Yeah, I think first of all, I think we are ready to take off as well with our sport shoes. So lots of young colleagues wear sport shoes, and it's cool. And I do that myself as well, and this is good. But I know that lots of young colleagues came from civil organizations. They have another connection to the civil organizations. For instance, I was as well on lots of demonstrations. I'm a member of some organizations, so I'm a political member, and now I'm member of the parliament. But I'm still also one from the organization or from the civil organization. So that's really important, and I think lots of young colleagues bring that because they had Fridays for Future or something like that. They were within this organization, and now they're a member of the parliament, and this brings lots of new perspectives and also the power from the street to the parliament. And so actually you don't have the chance to be calm for years because you have the pressure from the street, because you are one of the of the people from the street, and so I think that we will have lots of pressure, positive pressure, in the political system, in the parliament, and we will do lots of progressive things. So in the social security issue, and as well, climate politics and so on.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dig a little bit into the program. For example, I was checking it a little bit. I see there are some really interesting parts. So we were discussing about social security, but like, for example, as far as climate is concerned, I think one of the goals is achieving 80% of the total electricity in the country has to come from renewable energy. Again, for example, one of the things on the table is the legalization of cannabis, is one of the campaigns which the party is supporting. I think with a certain, it's a brave decision. For example, in Italy, we have now a referendum, but the Social Democratic Party is not clearly supporting that, and I think it's definitely the right choice. And again, there is this, what you were saying about the minimum wage of 12 euros, and also the European Parliament in this moment is discussing about applying a European minimum wage, and there was a discussion a couple of weeks ago, and a directive from the European Parliament. So what can you tell us a little bit about this program? Like, do you think how much of this do you hope to realize? How much? What are the hopes?
In the social policy area, you mean?
See, no, yeah. Well, let's start with these, which are more like sort of, the environment. First of all, is probably the priority in this moment.
Yeah, 80% renewable energy. I think we will achieve it, but it's not easy. So it will be hard work. And on the other hand, we also want to get rid of coal as well till 2030. So we have really big goals. So we have to really, within 10 years, we have to shift and change our whole economical system. That will be really hard. But I think this coalition could do that. So can do that, and I believe in that. Legalization of cannabis, yes, we want that. The liberals want that. We want that. The Greens, also. But it will be not like everyone can do it or something like that. So there will be some shops, and then they could sell that, but it won't be like in Amsterdam or other. There's the problem that the shops are legal or something like that, but no one knows where the cannabis came from. So we don't want to have the same situation, the criminal situation, like in the Netherlands. So I think that's a real problem, and so we have to really think really clear about how we will implement it, so that we don't have the same problems that Netherlands have it. Like journalists are killed, lawyers are killed in Netherlands, and so that's a great loss. This 2 point and the minimum wage of 12 euros. It's I think that's the first thing that will come, because Olaf Scholz said that in every speech, and the Hubertus Heil, the Minister of Work, he labor and social labor. He has the task to write that law. So I think we will start to have that law next year, January, February, I think, and then 10 million people in Germany will have more at the end of the month in their pockets, and that's crazy. And it's kind of small revolution. 10 million. It's huge. Yeah.
It is, and I believe it's a fundamental step, because Germany is one of the countries where inequality actually increased the most in the past 30, 40 years. So in the sort of neoliberal age, despite the country doing really well economically, inequality grew a lot. So I think it's a fundamental step. Then another thing that is under discussion, if I'm not wrong, is the ending of the Hartz IV, if that's how you pronounce it, of the sort of policies which were implemented with the Hartz plan. If you can tell us a little bit about that, what that is, and how are you going to change that?
It's a social security net that we have in Germany. We had a reform in 2005, that people receive now are 446 euros more or less that people receive if they are not working and are not able to work. They receive that money, but or these securities. The problem is that is not that much, and you have lots of conditions that the state says, hey, you are not allowed to go to another city, or they are controlling you all the time. They if you have 2 square meters more than you should have with regard to your flat, it could be that you should move out to find another flat, things like that. The other point is, if you live with someone who receives social security, for instance, your daughter and you are 18 and you live with your mother, and you want to work, the money that you receive from, I don't know, jobbing, will be cut from your mother.
Wow.
So you cannot receive the whole. Let's say you have a small job, 450 euro. You cannot have all the 450 euro. because they are how you call it, they sum it up. They sum it up and they say, okay, so the mother wouldn't receive 446 euros. Maybe she would receive, I don't know, 300 euros or something like that. So that we want to solve that problem, that the daughter can earn money without taking it away from the mother, for instance. That's one point. We want to have a more human face. No more sanctions and no more controlling all the time. The first 2 years, if you are unemployed, for instance, we don't want to look for your flat and tell you that that's 62 square meters and you have to move out or something like that. In the first 2 years, we won't look for what your earnings are or something like that. So because before that, the state looks to your earnings and says, hey, you cannot get social security. You have to take your earnings beforehand, and then you will get social security. So we will end that for the 2 years, the first 2 years. And I'm not sure, but we will also enhance the amount that you get. And we want to enhance the child support, and that will help the families that don't earn that much. For instance, in Germany, every fifth child grew up in poverty. In Neukölln, more or less every second child. And we could help the children and take them out of the poverty if we, for instance, gave them these child support things. It's called Kindergrundsicherung. Kindergrundsicherung. It's child support. They receive child support, but for instance, the child support is also it's mixed up with the social security thing, so it's not a plus. So for right now, we want to have the social security, but the child support will be a plus.
As an access.
So that's actually the small revolution of that. But I will also be frank. In Germany, 45 families have more money than 40 million people in Germany. So we have a great inequality in Germany. It's Gini coefficient is more like 0.8. And 0 is totally equality, and 1 would be one person have everything. So Germany is around 0.8. So we are close to that. So that's also the truth about Germany. And to be frank, with the liberals, we have nothing in our coalition paper with regard to tax the rich, the 5% of the rich. So we cannot do that because the liberals stopped us there. Because the 5% of the rich people vote the liberals. So they're doing politics for them. So it's like that. It's okay, but that's the problem. So we won't solve the inequality in Germany in that manner. But we will help the people with the 12 euro and the social security. We will help them, but the inequality will stay more or less like that because we don't have any means, any instruments like in the coalition paper to take
all that. Yeah, it's a really interesting thing to see if you will be able, how much you will be able to do with the liberals, because I was thinking that even at the European level could be a solution for the near future, could represent a coalition with the liberals, perhaps a way to change and depart from austerity policies. The point is to see how much will they be ready to do that, at least to a certain point. So what happens in Germany, I think we will all look at that with a really big interest, because of course that will really be really important. Another thing, the last thing about your welfare proposal, I see on your website that you also proclaim the goal of a 30-hour work week, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Which is a really innovative proposal. I think there are, in Spain, for example, they proposed the 4-day work week. So there is a lot of rediscussion. I think you can tell us a little bit about that. And
yeah, it's a vision. It's a vision, because as I worked myself in companies, I had a 4 days week or 30 hours week on my own, but I received less money. So now I want to have the 30-hour maximum for all of us, because 40 hours, the maximum we have, I think, since 100 years or something like that. So. But I think we have to go further and need to give the people the possibility to combine work and family, combine kind of doing citizenship things, or helping people and combining work. That's the thing, and we have digitalization in all parts, and I think maybe we could do that. We have more time to give the people, and we know that no one is working accurately every day 8 hours. We know that, and I think it would also give the great motivation for the people to work 30 hours. By having the same amount of salary. I'm working for that, and I know that's very important for all of us. And I think it's the main vision for really combining family and work in the 21st century. I hope we can go there further. And I didn't manage it, but I want to. So I cannot work 30 hours. I know, so it's more than that, 50, 60 hours. Yeah. But I'm trying. I don't know, but I want to implement kind of 30-hour work for my team here in my office. But now. I didn't manage it right now, but the goal is to have it and to be a good example for maybe all others. So yeah. I'm trying to.
That's a really good effort, of course. Yeah, but that depends also on the work and all this. Like, at least for those jobs, like, there are certain works, like for example, mine as well, where I work way more, but it's also a work I really love. So in that case, perhaps it's a little bit different. But no, I believe that what you were saying, that first of all the studies, about productivity, about employer happiness, and all this show that with a lower working week, with less hour worked, the productivity actually increases, and it's actually a benefit also for the firms. And then, of course, as you were saying, is also a matter to live in the 21st century. Also, there is the question, and I close it because we don't have time for a discussion on that, of robotization. The more technological advancement increases, the less hours we will have to work. So it's also a good way to, I think about the future in terms of the transformation that are changing our society. Okay, that's brilliant. It was a long interview, so I'll let you go now. One last question, though, is about your commission. When will you know what is going to be your commission so that we can also schedule the next podcast with you?
Yeah. Why not? 4 hours.
Of course, if you're happy to come back. We want
4 hours ago, I started my work in the Interior Affairs Commission.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And yeah, so we started our work so I will be responsible for integration, migration, police affairs, asylum, weapons, everything, because the Interior Affairs Commission is really large.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really looking forward to having lots of discussions and having good laws on that topic. So
okay, that sounds great. I wanted to ask you also about, I know that you were in Poland to check the situation. Unfortunately, we didn't have time, but perhaps that is another topic about migration policies that we can have in the near future.
Yeah.
So thank you so much again for joining us, and good luck for all this battle. We will be there with you, trying to help as far as we can.
Thank you, Paco. It was nice to meet you.
Okay. And thank you everyone for listening, and I will see you to the next episode of Arbury Road.